A waitress slipped a warning to the biker. That single note, meant for a traitor, was given to the wrong man. Now she's caught between a murderous lieutenant, furious criminals, and a motorcycle club that will stop at nothing to protect the woman who accidentally saved them. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The Black Dog Tavern was loud, smoky, and full of shadows. It was a favorite haunt of the Iron Devil's motorcycle club. Behind the bar, a young waitress named Elena moved quickly, her tray loaded with beers. She was saving for nursing school, and the tips here were good, even if the customers scared her sometimes. Tonight she was especially nervous. A man had approached her before her shift in the parking lot. He was slick, wearing an expensive suit. He didn't give a name. He handed her an envelope of cash and a small, folded square of paper. "See that man?" the suit had said, pointing subtly to a booth where several Iron Devils sat. "The one with the serpent tattoo on his neck. You give this note to him and only him. You do it quietly. You get another envelope just like this one tomorrow. You tell anyone and your nursing dreams end, permanently." Elena had taken the money and the note, her heart pounding. The man with the serpent tattoo was the club's lieutenant, a man named Vince. He had cold eyes and a cruel smile. She'd seen him be mean to the other waitresses. The thought of handing him a secret note made her sick, but the money, it was a semester's tuition. Now, hours later, the note burned a hole in her apron pocket. Vince was at his usual booth, laughing loudly. The lighting in the tavern was terrible, dim bulbs and neon beer signs that cast confusing shadows. Elena took a deep breath. She had to do it. She weaved through the crowd, heading for Vince's table, but as she passed another booth, a big hand gently caught her wrist. "Hey, darling, when you get a minute, another round for me and the boys." She looked down. The man holding her wrist was Marcus. He was the sergeant at arms for the Devils. He also had a tattoo on his neck. From a distance, in the bad light, it looked similar, a coiled, dark shape. But his was a dragon, not a serpent, and Marcus was different. He was tough, but he was always respectful. He tipped well, he never leered. In her panic, her eyes blurred. Serpent, dragon, the dark coils looked the same. This was the man with the neck tattoo. This was who she had to give the note to. Her hands trembled as she pulled the note from her pocket. Instead of putting it on a tray, she leaned down as if to wipe the table. She slipped the folded paper into Marcus's large, calloused hand, her fingers brushing his. "Your gang member sold you out," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. "You are the payment." Then she hurried away, her face pale. Marcus froze, the feel of her trembling fingers, the urgent whisper, the paper in his hand. He didn't look at it immediately. He watched Elena flee behind the bar. He watched Vince, who was still laughing, clapping one of his prospects on the back. Slowly, under the table, Marcus unfolded the note. The words were typed, anonymous. "The shipment is a setup. The Devils are the product. Vince delivered the route and the manifest. The buyers are coming for you tonight at the docks. You are the proof of purchase." Ice flooded Marcus's veins. A setup, a betrayal from Vince, his lieutenant, and this waitress, she had just saved his life. His mind worked fast. If the note was meant for Vince, then Vince knew someone was onto him. And now, because Elena gave it to the wrong man, Vince would know his betrayal was discovered. And the outside buyers, they would be coming to collect their payment, him, and would find an ambush ready instead. Elena was in mortal danger, from Vince for failing her task, from the buyers for intercepting their warning. Marcus stood up calmly. He caught the eye of his most trusted brother, Paul, across the room. A slight jerk of his head was all it took. Paul followed him to the men's room. In the grimy bathroom, Marcus showed Paul the note. Paul's face hardened. "Vince," he growled. "We move now," Marcus said, his voice low and deadly. "You round up the loyal boys, quietly. We meet at the compound in 30. I have to get the girl." "The waitress, Marcus, we got a war. She's in this because of us, and she just saved my life by mistake. I'm not leaving her for Vince to clean up. Go." Marcus walked back into the bar. He went straight to the bar where Elena was rinsing glasses, her hands still shaking. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than usual. She jumped, nearly dropping a glass. I'm sorry, did you need another? We need to go, right now, you're in danger. Her eyes went wide with terror. What? No, I delivered the... I know what you delivered, and you gave it to the wrong man. The right man is about to figure that out. Come with me if you want to live to see nursing school. He said it so plainly, so seriously, that all arguments died in her throat. She nodded, mute. He took her arm and led her through the back kitchen, ignoring the shouted questions from the cook. He put her on the back of his motorcycle parked in the alley, handed her a helmet, and they roared into the night. He didn't take her to the club compound. He took her to a safe house, a small, unmarked apartment the club used for delicate situations. Inside, he locked the door and turned to her. Tell me everything, the man who paid you. Elena, sitting on a worn couch, told him about the suit in the parking lot, the money, the instructions. He said the man with the serpent tattoo. In the light, I thought it was you. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, Marcus said, running a hand over his face. You just dropped a bomb in the middle of a war, but you dropped it on our side. He looked at her, really looked at her. She was terrified, but there was a strength in her eyes, a determination to survive. What's your name? Elena. Okay, Elena, you stay here. The door locks from the inside. Don't open it for anyone but me. I have to go deal with this. Are you going to kill him? She whispered. I'm going to protect my club, he said, which wasn't quite an answer. He left, locking her in. Back at the compound, the loyal devils had gathered. Marcus laid it out. Vince's betrayal, the setup at the docks. The club was furious. Betrayal was the ultimate sin. They moved on the docks not as a roaring motorcycle gang, but as a silent, armed strike team in unmarked vans. They arrived just as the buyers, a crew from a rival organization, were moving in, expecting to find Marcus alone and vulnerable. Instead, they found the full force of the Iron Devils. A short, brutal fight ensued. The buyers were captured, not killed. They would be useful for information. But Vince was not at the docks. He had been at the compound, and when Paul's team moved to arrest him, he was gone. He'd smelled the trap. He was in the wind. And he knew who had screwed up his plan, the waitress. Marcus's first thought was Elena. He raced back to the safe house. He knocked on the door with their coded pattern. Elena, it's Marcus. The door opened. She was there, safe, holding a fireplace poker like a weapon. She lowered it, relief flooding her features. Vince got away, Marcus said. He knows it was you. He'll come for you. And the people who hired him, they'll want their money back or your head. You can't go home. So what do I do? Her voice was small. You stay with the club, under our protection, until this is over. And so Elena was brought into the heart of the Iron Devil's empire. It was overwhelming. The compound was a fortress of garages, barracks, and a main clubhouse. The men were rough, but they treated her with a strange, protective respect. They called her the Canary because she'd sung without meaning to, but they meant it as a badge of honor. Marcus put her to work in the compound's kitchen, the safest place, under the watchful eye of Stella, the club's no-nonsense cook. Stella took one look at Elena's shaking hands and put her to work peeling potatoes. Hard to be scared when you're busy, Stella grunted. The chemistry between Marcus and Elena was immediate and fraught with danger. He was her protector, a towering, tattooed figure of violence. She was his accidental savior, a fragile-looking woman with a core of steel. They were constantly thrown together. He checked on her daily. They talked. He learned about her dreams of being a nurse. She learned about the club's strict code, about Brotherhood, about the empire he was trying to hold together. One night Vince made his move. He tried to sneak a prospect who was still loyal to him into the compound to poison the food. Elena, who was studying a medical textbook in the kitchen late, noticed the prospect acting strangely near the stew pot. She didn't scream. She calmly walked to the intercom and called Marcus's office. 5 minutes later, the prospect was being questioned in the chapel. The plot was foiled. Marcus found Elena in the kitchen, staring at the stew pot. You saved us again, he said, amazement in his voice. I just used my eyes, she said softly. He stepped closer. The kitchen was warm and quiet. "You're not what I expected, Elena." "What did you expect?" "A victim," he admitted. "You're a fighter." He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. The touch was electric. She leaned into his hand just for a second. The air between them crackled with a heat that had nothing to do with the stove. He wanted to kiss her. She wanted him to, but he pulled back. The timing was wrong. She was in danger because of his world. The hunt for Vince intensified. Using information from the captured buyers, they tracked Vince to a motel on the edge of the city. Marcus led the raid himself. This time, there was no escape. They found Vince with the suit who had hired Elena, counting money. The confrontation was tense, violent, and final. Vince went down fighting, cursing Elena's name with his last breath. The suit was handed over to the authorities with a dossier of his crimes, anonymously provided. The threat was eliminated. The traitor was gone. The Devil's empire was secure. Marcus returned to the compound, his knuckles bruised, his soul weary. He went straight to the kitchen. Elena was there, washing dishes. "It's over," he said. "Vince is gone. The buyers are handled. You're safe." She turned, drying her hands. The relief on her face was profound. Then, to his surprise, she walked right up to him and slapped his chest. Not hard, but with feeling. "Don't you ever do that to me again." "Do what?" "Make me worry like that," she said, and then she burst into tears. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as she cried out the weeks of fear and tension. He stroked her hair. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Elena." When her tears subsided, she looked up at him. "So what happens now? Do I go back to the Black Dog, back to my life?" Marcus cupped her face. "Your life is different now. You're part of this. You have a job here in the club's new legit business, a medical billing office we're starting for the clinics we own. You can learn the business, save for school. You have a family here if you want it." He paused, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "And you have me if you'll have me." He finally kissed her. It was a kiss of release, of promise, of a future seized from the jaws of a deadly mistake. It was deep and tender and full of a heat that promised much more later. Elena kissed him back, her arms wrapping around his neck. She was home. The Iron Devils didn't give up their empire. They strengthened it with a new legitimate front and a fierce new loyalty to the woman who had, by a twist of fate and bad lighting, saved them all. And Marcus, the hardened sergeant at arms, found his heart not in battle, but in the quiet strength of a waitress who knew how to deliver a message. Life inside the Iron Devil's compound was like learning a new language. Elena traded her waitress apron for business casual, reporting to the club's newly acquired medical billing office downtown. Jessica, the sharp, no-nonsense lawyer who handled the Devil's legitimate affairs, ran the office. She sized Elena up on her first day. "So you're the canary," Jessica said, not unkindly. "Saved Marcus's hide with a case of mistaken identity. Now you're in admin. You know anything about CPT codes?" "Not yet," Elena admitted, "but I learn fast." Jessica smiled. "Good, because we're clean here, spotless. Your job is to help keep it that way. The club's reputation, it's complicated, but this office, it's a beacon. We help clinics get paid so they can help people. You understand?" Elena understood. This was her chance to be part of the solution, not the problem. She buried herself in medical coding textbooks, her nursing school knowledge giving her a head start. At the compound, she had her own small room, but she spent most of her evenings with Marcus. Their relationship was a delicate dance. He was the club's enforcer, a man who dealt in harsh realities. She was learning the clean side of their empire, a woman who believed in healing. The chemistry was a constant, thrilling tension. It sparked during stolen moments, his hand on the small of her back as he guided her through the crowded garage, the way he'd bring her coffee exactly how she liked it, the long, heated looks across the dinner table in Stella's kitchen. One night he took her for a ride on his bike, away from the compound, to a quiet hill overlooking the city. "This is what we protect," he said, his voice a low rumble. "The right to have a quiet night, to build something. Even if how you protect it is messy," she asked softly. "Especially then," he said. He turned to her, his face serious in the moonlight. The world isn't clean, Elena. We try to make a clean space inside the mess. For our people, for you. He kissed her, and this time, there was no pulling back. It was a kiss of possession and surrender, a silent vow that this was real, that she was his, and he was hers, in the middle of the beautiful, dangerous world he ruled. But the outside world hadn't forgotten her. 2 detectives showed up at the billing office. They were investigating Vince's death, which had been ruled a justifiable homicide during a criminal confrontation, but rumors swirled. Ms. Elena, you were working at the Black Dog Tavern the night all this started, correct? One detective asked, his eyes sharp. I was, she said, keeping her voice calm as Jessica had coached her. And you quit abruptly, then started working here for a company owned by the Iron Devils Investment Group, quite a career jump. It's a better opportunity, Elena said. I'm studying medical billing. The detectives left, unsatisfied, but with no cause to hold her. Their visit was a warning shot. Someone was still asking questions. Worse, the organization that had hired Vince, a syndicate called the Caravan, was not pleased. Their man was in jail because of the Devil's anonymous tip. Their payment, Marcus, had been intercepted, and the loose end, the Waitress, was now tucked safely inside the enemy's fortress. They wanted compensation, or they wanted blood to save face. They couldn't attack the compound directly, so they went after the cleanest part of the Devil's empire, the billing office. They hired hackers to launch a cyber attack, trying to scramble patient data and destroy the company's reputation. Alarms went off in Jessica's office one Tuesday afternoon. Servers were crashing, files were corrupting. Elena, who was quickly becoming Jessica's right hand, saw the panic. Jessica, the backup, Elena shouted, remembering the protocol, the offline server in the safe. They raced to the fireproof safe in the back, manually initiated the backup restoration. It was a race against time. For hours, they worked, Elena's medical knowledge helping to sort and verify patient records. They saved the data, but the attack was a declaration of war on a new front. Marcus was furious, but also impressed. You fought them off with a keyboard, he said to Elena that night, a proud grin on his face. My little soldier. I'm not a soldier, she said, but she smiled. You are in this war, he said, pulling her close, and you're winning. The Caravan, frustrated, changed tactics. They sent a message. Elena received a photo in the mail at the compound. It was of her younger sister getting into her car at college. The note read, "A life for a life. The waitress comes to us, or the sister vanishes." Elena was paralyzed with fear. This was her worst nightmare, dragging her innocent family into this. Marcus saw the photo. His face went utterly calm, the kind of calm that precedes a storm. This ends now. He didn't consult the full club. He called only his most trusted brothers, Paul, James, the president, and Daniel, their tech expert. We're not negotiating with terrorists who threaten families. We find the head of the Caravan's local operations. We cut it off. Daniel traced the photo's digital signature to a low-level Caravan operative. Paul and Marcus paid him a visit. It wasn't a violent meeting, it was a conversation. Marcus showed the man a photo of his own children taken that day at school. See, we all have families. You tell your boss. The waitress is under the Iron Devil's protection. You look at her sister again, you breathe in her direction, and we will burn your entire operation to the ground. We will go to your homes. We will erase you. This is the only warning. The message was delivered. The Caravan, a pragmatic organization, calculated the cost. A waitress wasn't worth a war with an entrenched, furious motorcycle club. They stood down. The threat was truly over. A week later, Marcus took Elena back to the hill. He didn't get off the bike. He just sat there, the engine idling. You're free, Elena, he said. The cops have nothing. The Caravan is done. You can go back to your old life if you want. You can leave all this behind. You have your money saved. You can go to nursing school far away from here. She got off the bike and stood in front of him. Is that what you want, for me to leave? He killed the engine. The silence was heavy. I want you to be safe and happy. She stepped closer, putting her hands on his knees. Marcus, look at me. My old life was being scared of every customer, counting pennies, being alone. This life, it's messy and loud and sometimes terrifying, but I have a family. I have a purpose in that office. I have you." Her voice broke. "You are my safe. You are my happy, don't you get that?" He looked at her, at the fierce love in her eyes, and the last of his walls crumbled. He got off the bike and pulled her into a kiss that held every bit of fear, every bit of hope, every bit of the future they were going to build together. They returned to the compound. James called a full church meeting. Elena was asked to attend. "Elena," James said from the head of the table, "you came to us by accident, but you stayed by choice. You fought for this club with your mind and your heart. You are one of us." He nodded to Paul, who brought forward a small leather vest. It was not a full member's cut. Those were earned with blood and oath. This was a supporter's vest. On the back it read, "Property of Iron Devils," and had a small embroidered nightingale, a canary that chose to stay. It was a symbol of belonging, of family. Elena put it on, tears in her eyes. The men around the table pounded their fists in approval. Later, in Marcus's room, he held her close. "Marry me," he whispered against her hair. It wasn't a grand proposal. It was a quiet, certain statement. She leaned back, smiling through tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The wedding was a compound affair, a roaring celebration of a new beginning forged from a deadly mistake. Elena didn't just marry a biker, she married into a brotherhood. And the Iron Devils didn't just gain a wife for their sergeant at arms. They gained a heart, a conscience, and a fierce protector who had, once upon a time in a dimly lit bar, simply mixed up a dragon with a serpent, and in doing so, had saved them all. Married life within the Iron Devils compound was a study in beautiful contradictions. Elena's supporters' vest hung beside Marcus's cut in their small apartment. Her medical coding textbooks shared shelf space with motorcycle repair manuals. Their home was a sanctuary of quiet within the ever-present rumble of the club's business. Elena thrived at the medical billing office. Under Jessica's mentorship, she became the office manager. Her unique position, trusted by the club's leadership and possessing genuine medical knowledge, made her indispensable. She streamlined processes, caught errors that saved the clinic's money, and even helped design a charity program for patients who couldn't pay. The Devil's legitimate face was not just a front. Under Elena's influence, it became a point of genuine pride. Marcus's role evolved. With the traitor Vince gone and the threat from the caravan extinguished, his work as sergeant at arms shifted from constant defense to strategic oversight. He still led security, still had the hard conversations, but a new calm had settled in him. He had someone, to come home to that wasn't part of the fight. The chemistry between them deepened into a comfortable, smoldering passion. It was in the way he'd pull her into his lap after a long day, nuzzling her neck until she giggled and swatted him away. It was in the way she'd trace the scars on his knuckles, her touch a silent question he'd answer with a soft kiss. Their love was a settled, powerful force, a bedrock. The club faced its next challenge not from rival gangs, but from City Hall. A new, ambitious councilwoman, eager to make a name for herself, targeted businesses with known criminal affiliations for aggressive audits and zoning reviews. The Devil's garage, their bar, and even the medical billing office were put under a microscope. James called a meeting. "They're trying to tax and regulate us out of existence. We fight clean." Elena spoke up from where she sat beside Marcus. "Then we give them nothing to find. Jessica and I have been through the billing records a dozen times. We are cleaner than a hospital. The garage passes every inspection because Paul runs it right. The bar's license is perfect. We invite her in." James raised an eyebrow. "Invite the wolf in." "We show her the sheepdog," Elena said calmly. "We show her the jobs, the charity work, the veterans program we sponsor. We show her we're an asset, not a blight. We change the narrative." It was a daring strategy. Marcus squeezed her hand under the table, a silent show of support. The club agreed. They invited Councilwoman Grayson for a tour, not of the clubhouse, but of their legitimate businesses. Elena led the tour of the billing office, explaining their work with clinical precision. Paul, surprisingly eloquent, showed off the garage's state-of-the-art equipment and apprenticeship program. James spoke about community investment. Councilwoman Grayson, expecting grime and threats, found professionalism and civic contribution. Her skeptical demeanor softened. The audits didn't go away, but they became fair, and the club passed every one. The Empire had won a battle with transparency. Through it all, Elena and Marcus dreamed of a future that was wholly their own. They started looking at houses outside the compound, a place with a yard, a place to start a family. The club was their family, but they wanted a home of their own making. The past, however, had one last ghost to exhale. The slick-suited man who had originally hired Elena at the Black Dog, a mid-level caravan fixer named Sealers, had avoided prison by turning state's evidence. Now out on probation, he was bitter and bankrupt. He blamed his downfall on the waitress who messed up the drop. He'd heard she was not only alive and well but married to the devil's enforcer and living large. Envy and rage festered in him. He couldn't touch the compound, but he learned about the house hunting. He followed them one afternoon as they viewed a property with a realtor. He saw their hope, their normalcy, and it infuriated him. A few days later, Elena was working late at the billing office, finishing up a quarterly report. Marcus was at a club meeting. Sealers waited in the shadows of the parking garage. As Elena walked to her car, he stepped out, a nasty smile on his face. "Remember me, sweetheart." Elena froze, her heart leaping into her throat. She recognized him instantly, the cold eyes, the expensive suit now slightly frayed. She clutched her keys like a weapon. "You cost me everything," Sealers hissed, taking a step closer. "My money, my freedom. You're living the high life now, playing house with the bikers. I think it's time for a little alimony." "You'll get nothing from me," Elena said, her voice shaking but clear. She took a step back, her hands slipping into her pocket. "I think your biker husband would pay a lot to get you back in one piece," Sealers said, pulling a small knife. At that moment, Elena pressed the panic button on the key fob Marcus had given her, a modified device that screamed a silent alarm directly to his phone and the compound's security desk. "He's not the one you should be worried about," Elena said, her fear solidifying into a cold anger. "I'm not the scared waitress from the Black Dog anymore." Sealers lunged. Elena didn't try to fight him. She threw her heavy work bag at his face and sprinted towards the garage exit, screaming for help. The response was not a roar of motorcycles, but the swift, silent arrival of two club prospects in an SUV who were always on a security rotation nearby. They intercepted Sealers before he could reach the street, disarming him with brutal efficiency and pinning him to the concrete. Marcus arrived minutes later, his face a mask of pure terror that only broke when he saw Elena, shaken but unharmed, being checked over by one of the prospects. He pulled her into a crushing embrace. "I'm okay," she whispered into his leather jacket. "I'm okay." Sealers, lying on the ground, spat, "She's nothing but a mistake, a clerical error." Marcus turned slowly. The calm on his face was more terrifying than any rage. He walked over and knelt beside Sealers. "You're wrong. She's the best thing that ever happened to me and to this club." He stood up, looking at the prospects. "Call the cops. Tell them we caught an armed man attempting to kidnap a woman, and make sure his parole officer gets the full report." This time, the law would handle it. They had played it clean, and they had won. The finality of that encounter sealed their future. A month later, they closed on a house, a modest, sturdy place with a big backyard on a quiet street. It wasn't far from the compound, a symbolic statement of independence, not rejection. The club threw a massive housewarming. Men who could strip an engine in minutes were hilariously inept at assembling IKEA furniture. Stella commandeered the kitchen. Leo, the child of another club family, ran laughing through the empty rooms. That night, alone in their new home surrounded by unpacked boxes, Marcus and Elena sat on the floor of their empty living room, sharing a bottle of beer. "We did it," she said, leaning against him. "A real home." "It was you," he said, kissing her temple. "You brought the real to us. You made us want to build this." He gestured around the room, "Not just fortify a compound, but build a future." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring this time, it was a key to the new medical wing at St. Catherine's Hospital. The Iron Devil's Charitable Foundation is the primary donor. They want to name the pediatric ward after David. He paused. And they've offered the head of the fundraising board a permanent position. They asked for you. Elena stared at the key, tears welling. It was a bridge, a beautiful, permanent bridge between her world of healing and his world of loyalty, a way to honor the past while building the future. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he whispered. Yes, she breathed and kissed him. Their life was a tapestry now, the strong, sometimes rough fabric of the club, woven with the bright, healing threads of her work. The empire hadn't changed. It had grown a garden around its walls. And in the center of that garden was a house, a home, built not on fear or a mistaken note, but on a love that had turned a deadly error into a destiny. Thank you for watching. Have you ever been given a message that could change everything? What would you do if one small mistake pulled you into a dangerous world? Subscribe and tell us your thoughts below. Where are you watching from today?